Hello and welcome to a mini review type thing for the console launch of TERA. So before we get started, I just want to say that TERA is currently in a early access little 7-day head start type thing where you need to purchase a founders pack in order to get in. But if you want to play for free like you do on PC, you'll need to wait until I think 6 days after this video has gone up if you want to just play it normally. So how is it in its launch state? Well, overall it's a lot better than it was. The graphics have been improved, such as the draw distance and the ground clutter, so the draw distance overall seems a lot better than it was in the console beta, and the ground clutter is situational, such as the tutorial island has a much greater distance, so grass does not pop in straight in front of you like it did all throughout the open beta and all the closed betas and all that. It does, however, still do that in the big open zones in the main game, such as in the Oblivion Woods, etc., so it is limited to certain areas. As for that, most of the graphics seem the same as it was, but for performance it is a slightly different story, so it's overall a lot better than it was. So the frame rate is still targeting a 60 FPS mark at 1080p resolution on the base PlayStation 4. If you're on PlayStation 4 Pro or Xbox, then I don't know. I presume it's going to be something similar. So the frame rate itself still doesn't quite hit that 60 FPS mark. It generally hovers around the 50 while you're out and about. It does fairly often hit 60 when you're in a fairly empty zone and not doing anything, but other than that it's still going to be around the 50 mark, and if you're in combat or if you're in an area with other players, it is going to be around the 40 frames a second mark at most of the times. So in dungeons, it's still the same story as when you're out and about doing combat. It hovers around the 40 frames a second mark. It doesn't really go any lower than 30. I've never felt it go lower than 30. So it's still roughly the same as me playing on PC with my 1050 Ti and an i5 3330. The only time I've seen it drop below 30 is when we're in a major city such as Velkia. Now, despite this being like an early access paid thing, there are still a metric ton of players in Velkia, which still cripples the performance of the console. So there is some rather large lag spikes when there's lots of players around. The frame rate is a bit all over the place, but overall it's still an improvement over the open beta. Now, as for the crashing, I have had one crash within the 10 hours I've put into the game so far, so that is still a problem, and it wasn't really a there was too much going on screen type of crash. It was simply I was just running around in a nice empty area on my horse, then boom, I'm back to the PlayStation 4 dashboard. So I don't know what was going on there. So moving on to the gameplay now. The gameplay is a little bit of a Marmite situation. You're either going to love it or you're going to hate it, because I will admit it's very clunky to use at first, and it's not until you actually start unlocking your core rotation where you can customize your action bar, customize your chain skills, does it actually become a lot more fun to play. There was also a small problem of the whole lock-on camera. Now, I do love the lock-on camera. It's such a neat little thing to be able to be locked onto a boss so you can navigate around and do your spells and all that. It's all so nice to use, but the lock-on camera is very finicky in the way it targets mobs. So for example, there's a mob in front of me, but it's got small minions all the way around it. I want to target the big boss so I can launch my frozen orb at it, etc, etc, but it just won't snap to it. It would always target the mobs in front. If there is another mob standing behind the target, it will never lock onto it no matter how much you try. But it's still like a minor thing with the gameplay, because you're only really going to lock on to bosses and stuff. When you're out and about, I don't see much point in locking on because they just die almost instantaneously. As for features and that, most of the features are in the console version. The one thing I see is missing is the dressing room, where you can see what your character looks like in different costumes, etc. There doesn't seem to be anything else missing, it just seems to be that. But there could be something else, but I might just be missing it, because I did do a fairly quick glance because I just wanted to get in and out, grab the names I wanted, and level before the massive horde of players come on. So overall the game is very much improved from the beta version, and if I was to give it a score out of 10, it would be a 7 currently. It's not bad, but it's not perfect either. There is still much to be desired overall, such as like focusing on working on the performance so the frame rate is a bit more stable, thus cutting down the screen tearing. Although it's not as bad as it was in the open beta, it's still there but it's less noticeable. Fixing out some of the bugs such as the random crashing, although it's not often, it's still kind of a nuisance. But other than that, I would say the actual overall quality of the game is very similar to a fairly decent PC. I'd say it's definitely on the higher end of the scale in terms of graphics. So if you are looking for a action MMO on consoles, or perhaps your PC is just not up to scratch to play it on PC, then TERA console is the way to go. So anyway, thank you all for watching. I'll be back in a week's time where I'll do another mini review maybe, if there is a significant difference from where the free-to-play opens up and hordes of players just start pouring through the gates. Because as it stands right now, the server is pretty damn crowded, and that is with a paid entry. So it must have been a runaway success for En Masse to do this. But anyway, thank you all for watching. I'll be back with another video some point soon. Bye bye.